Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Eagle Eye podcast. Today, we're going to be talking everything that happened in the Clásico Nacional, and then, of course, we're going to be previewing the upcoming Clásico Joven, because, of course, like we all know, America has three Clásicos back to back. Alrighty, today, joining me, as always, is Brooklyn's very own Mr. AJ. AJ, how are we?
I'm doing it. Thank you, Ivan. How about you?
Well, I'm doing fine. It's Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, although I had a hamburger today, so didn't really stick to the whole taco thing. But thank you for asking. Doing well. Sadly, of course, Christian is unable to join us today. He is stuck in traffic, still trying to find Bad Bunny over in New York. Don't really know if he's going to be able to find him, but shout out to Christian if he does. And then, of course, like you guys saw, our beloved Cowboy Dan unfortunately had to leave for just a little bit. He's going to be joining us in just a moment. And yeah, so that's pretty much going to be it. And of course, we're joined by the Cruz Azul people over on the Maquina Cruz Azul, or you can find them on Twitter at the Maquina ENG. I believe that is their Twitter handle. And they're going to be joining us a little bit later on in the podcast. We're going to be talking all things in regards to the Clásico Joven. But AJ, let's talk a little bit about the Clásico Nacional and everything that happened. We were coming into this game. We were a little bit skeptical of what America we were going to get. And as always, it seems to be like a broken record whenever we talk about these games because it's the truth. We really don't know what America's side we're going to get. But coming into this game, I wasn't really feeling as nervous as a lot of people were on Twitter. And then once the ball actually started kicking, my heart was almost out of my chest. So it was an interesting game. I don't know how you felt it, how you lived it. What's your thoughts about the game? Of course, America ends up walking away with a 1-0 victory. I'll talk a little bit more about what I think about the end result, but tell me a little bit about what your opinions are in regards to the game.
So, this game overall, I actually wasn't as scared as I thought. Like, with all of us, getting a bit nervous coming into this Clásico Nacional. It seemed like in the very first couple of minutes, it seemed like America were the ones that were really being dominant with the ball. They were getting a couple shots at the Chivas goalkeeper. We were trying to create some. We were creating some plays going on. We were getting a lot of the opportunities, but it seemed that we weren't able to really get many goals as we did as we look at the end result, which was 1-0. So I felt like for the most part, America were dominant, even though for Chivas, it seemed like Conejo Brizuela was the one that was actually dealing most of the problems with this. But we see him was the one that was cutting into the box and getting shots left and right, which Ochoa thankfully was making amazing saves throughout the entire game, which is one I'm happy about. In the second half, it seemed like America were trying to get more than just one goal because it seems like they were not satisfied at all. But then it seemed that we weren't really able to get anything going with our shots in the second half. Seems like it was a back and forth battle between America and Chivas. I felt like towards the second half, I feel like Chivas were the ones being slightly more dominant towards the end. But all in all, a 1-0 win, 3 points, and overall, I'd say I'm content with this one. But I feel like we definitely could have been scoring more goals against them.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those games where you're content about the result. You're happy, of course, that you beat your eternal rivals. But then at the end of the day, you kind of look back, take a step, and say, okay, where did we go right? Where did things go wrong? And at the end of the day, should we be as pleased as we are with this result? And I think the bottom answer should be yes, because I think we've kind of been in a rut lately. We just come off a draw against Toluca, which we should have definitely have won that game. Should have been sharper on the night. And I think it speaks volumes to America coming into this Clásico Nacional, beating your rivals and holding on to a clean sheet. And I think defensively, you looked a little bit more solid than you had maybe a couple games prior. So I think there's a lot of positives to take away from this. But granted, there are some negative connotations that will be attached to this game, not just so necessarily of what happened afterwards on the pitch, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but what was dealt with in the 90 minutes of the match. I think there was plenty of stuff that America still needs to work on, and we'll have to wait and see. But our beloved Cowboy is back with us, and it's only fair for me to reiterate the question to you, Dylan, and is how did you come away with this victory of America over Chivas, and how did you see the team overall?
Overall, I feel like it's kind of gone back to in the sense to where how we kind of saw this team a little bit, where you're kind of a little bit on a high note, then all of a sudden you go down and the team's not playing like it did the last week. But I'm happy. I'm happy with the win. I'm content. It's 3 points at the end of the day. But like you said too, there's some negatives to take away from this game. whenever you're looking at the game as a whole, and obviously, like how you said, what happened after two a little bit. But we're here to break it down, obviously, a little bit. But yeah, I feel pretty content after this. A great start to the three Clásicos that we have back to back.
Yeah, no, and like you mentioned, I think it's a pretty good start to what we know is going to be, a really tough calendar period for America, not just these Clásicos coming up, but then, of course, you have away León, and then, of course, the, game against Tigres after that. Well, you have Atlas in between that, but still a pretty heavy schedule coming up for America. So a good start overall in regards to this. I think the one thing I'm taking away from this matchup is America was finally able to manage a lead. And I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, it wasn't pretty, it wasn't perfect. And I think you mentioned AJ Ochoa had to make some very good saves. Was very critical to this victory. But also to credit that, I think some of the defense that was being put out there, I think was really good. I think, your boy Paolo Maldini, the Mexican Paolo Maldini. I think he came in the second half, which was a little bit odd. We weren't expecting that, but I think we'll talk a little bit more about the whole injury stuff. But he came in for Aguilera, who had a little bit of a knock, didn't want to risk it. He didn't want to risk it, and so at the end of the day, he comes in, and I think he actually steps up to the plate, and I think he does some pretty good stuff. I think Cáceres had another good game. Wasn't as well-rounded as we'd expect it to be, but at the end of the day, it's a clean sheet for him as well. Fuentes was the only weak link, I think, in that defense. I won't talk about George because he was completely making me lose my mind in some of the passes that he was doing. But defensively, I will say this, though. Defensively, the issue I had with George was not really what he was doing defensively, because I think he made some great sliding tackles. He did a very good job in keeping Antuna on check. But it was when it was transitioning going forward, he made some ridiculous sloppy passing. Some of his clearances were just straight to Chivas players, and I was really being a real stickler in regards to that sense, because I think George needs to step up his game in that regards. But ultimately, it was a good game, like you mentioned, Dylan. It's a good 3 points to kind of set the team up for what's to come in the calendar. But AJ, talk to me a little bit more about this first half. I mean, you got to give credit to America because they didn't sit back. They actually took the game to Chivas. And if I'm not mistaken, before that Gio goal, I mean, Benedetti could have had one. We had a couple of different plays, some very good, interesting passing going on in the midfield. I think we really took the game to Chivas, and I was really surprised at the way that this team was playing.
No, it was just it was just really great where it seemed like, from the get-go, it's like America's first thing in mind, it's like, all right, we're going to get that early goal. As I mentioned before, if America are going to try to win this game, I feel like getting an early goal is going to give us the advantage, because in overall, our morale, or just our overall feeling towards into this game would just go up. So getting us that goal would be very important to make. It's all right, we got that first goal. Now let's keep going. Let's keep attacking, which is what I like. Nicolas Benedetti, he actually could have had a goal or two into this game. He had really close opportunities. So just during that first half, America weren't really slacking it at all. They wanted to score. They want to score more goals. Yes, we got the goal from Giovanni Dos Santos in 27th minute, but from that point on, it's no, we want to keep going. We want to keep giving this Chivas defense a lot of pressure, especially at Agudinho. He was doing good saves at this point, but it seems like what the amount of times that America were going up front and just wanting to constantly keep shooting the ball right at Agudinho, it showed that America meant serious business into this first half. So I just love how they were really being all out offensive and not really risking much. Our defense on the other side, we're doing also a really good job in trying to prevent a Chivas goal from happening. Yeah, we had some times where a Chivas player would get a shot off, but either a defender would block that, or Ochoa, which he did a lot, would come in with the save. So just love that in the first half that America really weren't slacking, or they weren't falling asleep, or it wasn't becoming one of those tale of two halves thing where it's America are good in one half and America are not doing great in the other. I feel like maybe in this case that in both halves they were doing pretty well.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, too, that I think it's a good thing you bring up, the tale of two halves. You don't really see that in this game, and I think that's exactly what I go back to, where America manages this game properly. I'm not going to say perfectly, because, of course, that would mean that America walks away a little bit more convincingly winning that game. But ultimately, like you mentioned, it was pretty good halves for both for both first and second in regards to America's perspective. But talk to me a little bit more about Gio. I think the two ended people put it perfectly. It was quite the statement of Gio to make by scoring that goal and ultimately being the winner for America's for America getting all 3 points in the Clásico Nacional. But talk to me a little bit more about Gio. What are your thoughts in regards to him, and what type of game do you think he had? Because I mean, personally, for me, I think he was one of the better players on the pitch.
No, like I feel like he really had an impact from the get go, and it seemed like the case like when people heard from the news from reporters and journalists saying that Giovanni Dos Santos will be starting, everyone's like, wait, why? We could put someone else in that spot, because I felt like, yeah, he's shown some signs of like his former greatness that he had like when he was younger, like going back to when like he was playing on the Mexico national team, where he was just becoming like the next star for Mexico, or when he was playing over at Mallorca or just in Europe. Like he was actually just a potential, but then it seemed like after he left LA Galaxy, it seemed like things might have simmered down, considering he was named, I think, at one point in reports like one of the most overrated players in MLS. But it seemed like seeing that how he joined the America since, it seems like he's starting to pick up pace and getting back to where he was before. So it's just that goal that he scored really provided a really, how should I say this, like it made America really confident. It seems like he just matched to win the heart against of America fans back. For some, it was like, okay, that's what you'd like to see this from Giovanni Dos Santos. He was passing, he was going forward, making some plays, and then he overall scored the only goal in the match, and it was a great goal, in matter of fact. So it was really nice to see that how Gio got a start after coming back from an injury, if I was not mistaken, and he already seemed to like prove a point. He's like, if you're gonna start me, I'm gonna put my 100% into the match.
No, I agree with you. I think it was very critical of Giovanni to come into this game and make the statement that he did. Dylan, talk to me a little bit about your thoughts in regards to Gio and Gio as a whole, as a player, as an America player, because I think, like the commentators also mentioned, he has this debt to the Americanismo, right? So much hype behind him, so much money behind him as well. And then, of course, he's carrying the weight of that, tremendous number 10. He comes into this game, a lot of, like, AJ said, a lot of doubts, a lot of questions as to why him. Comes into this game, scores a goal, has probably one of the best games, and looking back to a year, he had that horrible injury in the Clásico Nacional. So I think it was a little bit of extra special for him to be able to play this game again. But just give me your opinions on Gio.
No, I mean, like you said, I definitely agree with you. I mean, I think obviously one of the better players on the pitch. A statement of a goal, a statement of a start too. I mean, I think it shows Piojo giving him the confidence, and Piojo still has confidence in him. It's a goal to where I'm sitting on my seat and I stand up and golazo in front of my family. They're just trying to wonder what's going on, what's wrong with me. But I was just into the game, celebrating that. But I think it's the right foot in the track for Gio. Like you said, a lot of pressure still on this guy, in terms of, the number he's wearing, the badge he wears week in and week out, especially, when you look in terms of his wages too. I think still a lot to prove. I don't think this necessarily in this sense settles it. I'm pretty sure that's not what you're asking either, or what you're pointing out. I think you're just talking about the game. But, you want to see this Gio. You want to see this side of him. You want to see him, scoring these goals or grabbing an assist here and there. But if anything, this is the right foot Gio needed to start on to get back on track.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that there's some doubts out there by a couple of people that, Gio has the tendency to give us these bright moments and then all of a sudden disappear for 2, 3, 4 games. But I think like you mentioned, it's the right foot on the track for Gio, and he needs to come up big, because I will say this, I do think that he's going to play on Sunday against Cruz Azul. So I do think that he needs to make just as big of a statement in regards to that sense and have some consistency going forward, because on his day, he's probably like top 3 in that America squad on his day. And I don't think any of us can argue that he's not,
Yeah, yeah. He beats out Ochoa too, so.
Well, yeah, that's true. Although Ochoa did nutmeg him in practice. So, I mean, we have to settle the score there.
Better than Cordoba.
But yeah, obviously it's a promising start for Gio, and obviously he gets the goal that puts us in that comfortable position. And then I think as the game progresses, America doesn't take the foot off the gas pedals so much, but I guess they put themselves a little bit on cruise control and try to navigate the game, which I was all right with. I was fine, because I thought, you have the goal, and you coming into the second half, I did expect them to invite Chivas to have the ball more, have a little bit more of the pressure, and try to get them on the counter. Almost paid off. Of course, we had that disallowed goal that, because of that Henry block. I don't know. Look, we don't like to talk about referee decisions here because at the end of the day, they are what they are. But I don't think that should have been disallowed, and we'll just leave it at that. That's all personal opinion, but still, it was a nice header by Cordoba, but it was a really really good play by America. So, we still had a couple of chances in the second half, but I think you noticed roughly around the 80th minute mark that Piojo says, "All right, we have to close this game out," and you see some of the substitutions that were made, and I think it definitely boasted towards that. AJ, how did you feel about that? How did you feel about Piojo trying to close out the game? Like around the 80th minute and throwing a lot of defensive players in.
I feel like it's the right thing to do because yeah, a 1-0 lead's not really comfortable, I guess. But the way that America were playing throughout this entire match, it seemed like they were not to say they were exactly comfortable, but it's like, okay, we have something going, because it seemed like overall most of the Chivas weren't really able to get anything done. Jota Macios was just really quiet throughout that entire match. Really, the only thing I would say throughout that entire match was Isaac B. Sweat, and then towards the very end with Oribe Peralta, where he happens to almost score a goal from the corner kick, which he got the ball. But it's all, I feel like it was a correct move for Piojo to make all these defense substitutions. I know he would get some kind of criticism for the substitute he would make, whether it be a questionable substitute, subbing out a player that's doing really well for someone else, and you're just why, or just making these subs it doesn't make any sense. I feel in this case, I do agree with Bill when he was making these defensive substitutions. I'm like, that's fine. If we're gonna close this game out, add some defensive players to it, just so really Chiefs are not really able to do much left. Maybe they can get maybe a chance or two off, but with all the defensive substitutes that we're making, it seemed like Chiefs weren't getting the most out of it. And I seem at that point, Piojo might have been seeing that maybe we might not be able to get any more goals during that time. So it's just we're just going to close this game out at this point in the 80th minute, which I like, even though I feel like you would still play the way you usually want to play until the 90th. But I think at this point, I think Bill was just nah, we're going to close it out here right now. So I was fine with the substitutions that Piojo was making.
Yeah, I mean, there were some questionable ones, of course. I don't know why Chucho Lopez was ever brought into the game. But, I mean, look, we could spend here minutes, hours debating that.
I mean, hey, he got the assist. I think it was 1 or 2 minutes in, and then if the disallowed goal happened, that essentially Chucho would have honestly made it 2. It was he had the 10.0 rating at that point. Got that one cross that leads to a goal. There you go, he did it. But no, I get you with that. A questionable substitute. I guess it's just to let him play. I guess. Who did he sub out for? Was it for Leo Suarez when Chucho Lopez subbed in? I think it was. But either way, no, Sergio Dos Santos actually. So in that case, he might have he did something, but then throughout the match, it was just not so much.
Yeah, it didn't really do much. So I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day, right? It is what it is. But ultimately, America walked away with all 3 points, and we could sit here and digest this game a little bit more. But I really don't want to take too much time away from it. I do want to focus on a little bit of what happened afterwards, because very interesting stuff, very hot debate going on right now, not just on Twitter, but I think all of social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, and of course everything that's going on down in Mexico. I think it's been the talk of the town in regards to this player swapping jerseys after the game is over, which we've actually sat down with another person, a Chivas person, and we've had a sit down, a conversation as to whether this was correct or incorrect of the players to do. We had a sit down with Rigo, who is a good friend of ours. He's a Chivas fanatic. He analyzes Chivas as well. He has his own Chivas podcast. And we sat down with him. We talked in regards to whether or not this was right, this was wrong, and we recorded this and we've uploaded it into a video format so you guys can check out our YouTube channel and you guys can check that whole conversation. I highly suggest you guys go and take a listen to that, because it's a really, really good sit down. But I do want to address it just quickly here on the podcast, because I think it's something that I think needs to be talked about. So, AJ, what are your thoughts in regards to these players after the game, having a chit chat, laughing it up, interchanging jerseys? I mean, you see Cordoba hanging around, kind of nonchalant, like a towel. I mean, just, what's your thoughts on all that?
It's for me. I honestly find it fine. I may get some criticism maybe about them, but it's just one of the things. It's like for 90 minutes, your rivals on the pitch, you're playing against one another. But then after all that, you're just back to being friendly because like those players that were all talking with one another, they've been on the. It's they know each other on the. They play at the Mexico national team at some point, or they currently are right now. So it seems one of those cases. It's like just getting to talk with them after the game, just talk about whatever. Where it was like how's everything going or whatnot. So I feel it's one of those things. It's like to me, it's completely fine for them to just swap jerseys, just sit down, have a chat, another laugh about whatever they were talking about. So seeing with this thing, it's fine for me. Maybe it's because I'm more of a young America fan, like since from 2013. So like I've been watching the Clasico, so maybe I don't get. Well, I'm not completely like getting completely like understand like why this is like a really huge drama. I get the point that it's a rivalry and it feels like people would expect it to just like brawl out, which I mean there was a little bit of a fight at the very end of the match, but all in all everyone just got themselves like to say like what's let's not fight now, it's fine. And then you show that on TV where all the players are just hanging around with one another, just laughing, talking with one another. I feel like to me this is completely fine for them to do as the players because they're friends at the end of the day and they know each other.
You know what? And you bring up a very interesting point, which we do talk about with Rigo over on that YouTube video channel. So make sure you guys check that out. And we discuss about the fact that there's kind of this upbringing of a younger generation that maybe is a little bit more nonchalant or maybe hasn't really followed America to that extent. That is a little bit less more lenient in regards to this aspect. Rigo makes a debate that, at least from a Chivas perspective, that it shouldn't have even crossed their mind to even go out and chit chat the way that they did because they just lost, the biggest game of the season for them. And I think I try to put myself in their shoes. And I think as an America fan, if your team had just lost, a game against your biggest rivals, of course you don't want to see them chit chatting, laughing it up, and exchanging in jerseys and stuff like that. Granted, they could do that outside of the public eye, and that no one knows, no one bats an eye. But I think the fact that they were out on the pitch really kind of makes a different statement. And of course, I think the fact that there was no fans, I think that they thought that maybe there wouldn't be that much of a public eye on them, that maybe they did that during the time that they had to do on the pitch. But again, it's kind of up to debate. And like I've told Dylan, like I told Rigo, at the end of the day, it's really going to fall down on perspective. There isn't really a set right or wrong answer when it comes to this because, like you mentioned, AJ, I think you make some valid points as to why this should be okay. At the end of the day, I think the other people on the other side of the argument make a really good point as well, which is this is a rivalry that goes down and is deeply rooted in the Americanismo. And I think Moy Munoz came out and said that it's taught to you in the institutions from a young age, and whenever you join the team, that is one of the commandments. You are not allowed to swap a jersey with another Chivas player. But then at the same time, they're your friends, they're your colleagues, whatever the case may be. So, I mean, it's interesting. Let us know what you guys think about it. Reach out to us on Twitter, comment in the comment section down below, whatever it is. Let us know. First of all, would you guys ever exchange a jersey with another Chivas player if you were an America player? And two, was this a proper way to go about it? If it wasn't, tell us why not. Dylan, I'm curious to hear what you have to say. And I kind of know what you said because we had this conversation earlier, but I think it'd be important for people to hear it.
Yeah, no, to me, I think it's pretty much a bad look on both institutions, in all honesty. But, I kind of get where AJ's going to, like, 90 minutes, in those 90 minutes, it's a rivalry, you're kind of in a sense meant to, hate each other. And, you obviously hate the institution you're playing against. I just kind of feel in the sense there's a time and place for that, maybe the tunnel toward the locker rooms, but not on the pitch to where everybody can see it, I guess, in the sense of public eye, because you never know who's around, like reporters, journalists, kind of things. Obviously, no fans in the stands, so I mean, maybe that's where they kind of feel a little relaxed. Hey, we could do this, out here on the pitch, but obviously, they couldn't. It got recorded, it got filmed. It was always on through the internet, but at the end of the day, and like I said, there's a time and place for it. I don't mind it, but the way that it was conducted, I don't agree with.
Yeah, no. And I really urge all of you to take a look and take a listen to that video we just uploaded with Rigo. Of course, shout out to Rigo for coming on. Thank you so much. it was a great discussion, and we talk about that. We talk about the how the players should have conducted this better. Rigo gives us his Chivas perspective. I give kind of the America perspective, and I saw that we had a comment that someone said that they feel like the players don't feel the rivalry as much as they did back then, and we talk about that as well. We talk about the canteras and the upbringings and how we can change that so this kind of doesn't happen again in the public eye. And so really a lot of things were covered in regards to that aspect. So make sure you guys check that video out. We go into a lot more in-depth discussion in this, and I promise you that it is worth every second of it. I think we had some really good things to say, and I really do think that many of you would enjoy listening to that conversation. And of course, let us know in the comment section down below. Do you guys agree? Do you guys like? Do you guys dislike? Let us know. And one last thing on this subject, Guillermo Cho was on an interview yesterday, but it came out today. And they asked him if he would ever exchange jerseys. And he kind of finessed the question in the sense that he said, no, I would never do it the way that my teammates did. But I have swapped jerseys before in the sense that, I was asked to see if they would give me a jersey and stuff like that. So I think that's a proper way to go about it. Ochoa's not gonna be the type to, hey, game's just over, let's switch jerseys. It's like, okay, maybe a day, 2 days later, we could talk about that. But, the match is the match, the day is the day, and we just kind of have to go about it. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. But gentlemen, anything else to add on before we move on?
No.
No? Alrighty then. Okay. Well, any moment now, we're going to be joined by the Cruz Azul people, and really excited to talk in regards to the Clasico Joven, because I think this is the one Clasico that I think we were all a little bit more jittery about because obviously we know Cruz Azul and the form that they're in, and obviously we know the form that America's in. So it's going to be interesting to talk to the Cruz Azul people in regards to how they feel and how they think we're coming into this one. And all that good stuff. But before they do come over here, I do want to remind you guys that today's episode is brought to you guys by Foot Cult. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you guys check them out. They have some tremendous and amazing gear and sportswear for the Liga MX English. I mean, you have training tops, jerseys, shirts, caps, pins, boards. I mean, the whole 9 yards with these people. Okay, and they've done a tremendous work to this date, and we're excited for future projects to come with them. So make sure you guys go check them out, footcult.com. And if you guys like any of the product, doesn't necessarily have to be this beautiful EY podcast shirt that we have on right now, but if you guys want to, you guys can order these as well over onto their website. And if you guys like anything else, make sure you guys go and check out and use the discount code EEP at checkout to get 10% off. And helps a little bit help cover the cost of the show, and hopefully we can give more back to you guys in that sense. But thank you again to Foot Cult for sponsoring today's episode. All right, gentlemen, the updates in regards to everything going on in Coapa. Really don't have much. Christian usually has all this. He did not leave me his notes. All he left me was a sticky note that said BRB looking for Conejo Malo. So I don't know what necessarily that means. I think just what I mentioned. I think he's on his way trying to look for Bad Bunny. I'm pretty sure he left the island quite a while ago. But Christian, if you listen to this, we wish you nothing but the best and hope that you get to find Bad Bunny. But only really news update that I have in regards to America is that Emmanuel Aguilera still a little bit questions in regards to whether or not he's going to start on Sunday. Of course, more tests will be made. Sergio Diaz, I think, is also discarded for the match on Sunday, so he's not going to be in that roster. And then, of course, Federico Viña looks like he's going to be able to play more than just 60 minutes on Sunday. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not he starts that game. But that pretty much wraps it up for all the news we have in regards to Coapa. I do want to remind you guys, do not forget to tune in on Thursday as me and AJ will be diving into the world of America Femenil. We're going to be recapping that draw against Atlas, and then we're going to be previewing the game following after that against Mazatlan on Saturday. Alrighty then, gentlemen, let's move on into the next segment, the Clásico Nacional. And Dylan, if you'd be so kind as to bring our guest on to the show. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast none other than Oscar from the Maquina, EN. Oscar, how are you, man?
Hey guys, how's it going? How's everything?
Doing good. We're doing
Excuse
good. We hope you're
Doing
doing
good.
well.
excuse the quarantine hair, but yeah. Hope you guys are doing
No,
well,
it's
doing good
fine.
over here.
Nice, nice. Great to have you on the podcast. Excited to talk Clasico Joven. We just came off a Clasico victory, so we're looking at you guys to be the next victims in line.
We'll see, we'll see. Congrats on the win, by the way. You guys, I expected a different game. I feel like Chivas really dropped the ball just because I think you guys mentioned in your last podcast on the defensive end, you guys let in a lot of goals and they didn't take advantage of that. So I thought in my prediction I said I think it was going to be 3-2, a lot of goals just because I thought America was going to win easily. They were just going to outscore Chivas ultimately. But it was still pretty good Clasico Nacional, but just not the way I thought it was going to go down.
Yeah, if there's one game I'm worried about leaking goals, it's definitely against you guys. And we'll talk a little bit more about why so. But you know, hey, we came away with a clean sheet. This is the one game I thought we wouldn't get a clean sheet, but
Yeah.
somehow miraculously we did. So yeah, excited to talk a little bit more about how both teams are coming into this one, and just going off of there, talk to me a little bit more about Cruz Azul and how you guys are walking into this one. I know you guys just had a game against Mazatlan. How did that go for you guys? And morale speaking, in regards to not just the team but the fans, how is the Clasico Joven kind of coming into this?
I think on paper, and then I feel like the majority of the fan base are really skyrocket high on confidence. For me, in my perspective, I'm a bit analytical, and I don't know, I'm definitely more of a realist of a fan. I let go of the emotion aspect of it a lot, so I have to really look at it from kind of a third point of view, a hindsight view. But I think, but as just a fan, I think everyone's just really good. We're in a really good moment right now. We're top of the league right now. 25 points, 20 goal scorers, only 9 goals against, and we're all in the top five of most goals in all that type those top categories. 8 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, and I think we're just going into a game really good because back to back away wins too, and then we're going into a nice little undefeated streak too. It can only give confidence for fans and the players as well coming into the game.
I feel like we're coming into something similar when we faced each other back in the Clausura right before kind of this pandemic kind of had to shut everything off, right? You guys were on hot form. You guys looked like you guys were just steamrolling through everything. And then, of course, we were a little shaky, kind of like we are right now, still a little bit doubtful of what to expect from the team. So I think we're just kind of really going to get a rematch, basically, of the game that we had in the Clausura. I don't know if you think the same way, Oscar.
No, yeah, definitely. If you look back before the last tournament that got canceled, the numbers are very similar and the standings are very similar from both teams. I think I have the numbers here. So before the whole pandemic started, in 10 matches played, including that win we won against you guys, we had 7 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses, and a goal factor of 24 and only 14 against. Very similar numbers that we have now. I think both teams. I thought it was pretty funny. I talked to this back then with the guys at Full Mix Nation that you guys were kind of like panicking or really going overboard. In my opinion, overboard when you guys suffered those back to back defeats against Querétaro and Monterrey, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Um, you guys were like a lot of foot up Piojo, and like, you guys were really concerned about the defense. But then, if you look at the league table, you guys were still in third in third place. So, but I mentioned to the guys that that's what comes to when you for one of these big teams, Cruz Azul, Chivas, Pumas, the standards are just like it's
Yeah.
just it's a bit unreasonable at times, but that's how you grow up, and it just for like fans like us who go for these teams, it's just pretty standard for us. But if we were like a Necaxa, Querétaro, Puebla, it'd be another story. But yeah, I feel like it's gonna be exactly another rematch, and that's why I'm a little bit afraid this coming around because and lately we've been doing really good against you guys. We got in a couple wins, but everything we're gonna have to fall down at one point. That's why I feel like maybe we'll get later into it. But the predictions, I just feel like it's either gonna be a draw or you guys might edge it just because um we have to fall at some point. We just can't keep winning you guys every game. I mean, I hope that's the case, but from a logical standpoint, I think you might get one on us. But who never knows? It should be a good game.
And that's what I think we're all anticipating, a really good matchup. And like, I mean, we were expecting a goal fest in the Clasico Nacional and only ended up getting one. So, I mean, who knows what to predict at this point. But AJ, with a kind of this quote unquote rematch coming up, how do you think America's coming into this one? How do you think Americanistas are walking into this one? And lastly, should we not have Emmanuel Aguilera take a penalty?
Ooh. So yeah, no, it's just we just beat Chivas in the Clásico Nacional. That's 1 out of 3 clásicos that we've won so far. The next is be coming up against Cruz in the Clásico Joven. So I feel like in this case, with the 1-0 win and like how we were looking at it in Chivas, I feel like America are coming into this one strong with the case like we need to score more goals. We're not gonna go with like 1-0 victories, despite it's giving us the 3 points, but as well as things like it's a Clásico. I feel it should be a goal fest, like from America and for the other team. Yeah, we'll be conceding goals, but the thing is, we want to also score goals well because I feel that's what a Clasico I think it's all about. It's just a goal fest, just having both teams just going at each other left and right. And with America fans, we're in 3rd place so far. We're in a good spot right now, but I feel we're definitely going to be pushing up towards the 1st place spot, and we want to take that mantle away from Cruz Azul. So I think in this case, America fans, especially with all the comments that Chivas fans is getting and seeing that how America are playing, how we're getting some of our top players back into our squad, and it seems that America are gonna have like their best squad for the most part, like coming into this match and just ready. So I feel like in this case, America fans are feeling really confident. And then with the Emmanuel Aguilera penalty, I really don't have much to say. I remember watching that on my TV, saw that I'm like, that's like one of like. At that time, he was getting so much criticism. I'm like, that's like the only good thing you had left in you, and you messed that penalty up. And I'm just like, And what sucked is that was the last game we had before, the COVID-19 happens. Is that thing? It's like, if Emma actually was in this game, it was playing against Cruz in the next game, and then a penalty happened to happen, you know what? I feel confident him taking it again because he's kind of been like trying to prove himself wrong, considering he's kind of like a captain in this team now since Bruno Valdes' injury. But for the most part, I'd still let him take a penalty against Cruz Azul.
Well, I mean, we know you like to roll the dice, AJ. We know you like to roll the dice. Dylan, talk to me a little bit more about this Clásico Joven. I mean, some people are saying that it's starting to overshadow a little bit of the Clásico Nacional because both teams in the past couple of years have been very strong and have led to really good, exciting games. I mean, we just had not too long ago a final between both of these teams, and it just seems that history seems to repeat itself whenever these two play on the pitch, and we always tend to get a game that usually boats with either goals or plenty of things to talk about.
No, yeah, I'm pretty excited for this game come Sunday. Like you said, this one seems kind of like it's overshadowing it, and I feel like you kind of feel it more, especially because this is kind of like a crosstown rival in the sense, both these teams are basically sharing the same stadium as home stadiums, and so I feel like for America, it's a little bit of chip on their shoulder still, even when Cruz Azul moved into the Azteca. So I'm looking forward to this game a lot. I'm pretty excited. Like AJ was kind of mentioned, you got to win against Chivas, a pretty bitter rival. So I wouldn't say this team's on cloud 9 right now, but I feel like their confidence is pretty high going into this game. And so you're kind of hoping that this team can duplicate what they did against Chivas, but, just make it a little bit better. And, go out and score a goal, because you kind of expected more goals, especially I thought Benedetti was going to get one with the shots he was taking. But we'll have to wait and see what comes of this from this team.
No, yeah, and we start off on the right foot, and I think cloud 9 for us would be to get all 9 points in these Clásicos, right? And I know we did a poll and we asked a majority of you as to vote as to what realistically America can walk out of in regards to these games. And Dylan, while you pull that up, I do want to ask AJ, if America ends up drawing this game or potentially even losing this game, do you think do you think that there's still hope to rescue something out of this next coming up Clásico against Pumas, where America walks away with 6 points? Do you think that's viable? Do you think that's even acceptable?
it's Clásicos. We want to win them all, but like when you have teams like Cruz Azul who are in first place and are doing like an amazing job overall throughout this season, including America, it's one of those things like we don't want to give up. Especially the last time we played against Cruz Azul, that was in the Copa por Mexico. We lost 1-4 to them. It was a complete thrashing where it's like America seemed completely lost when they were watching this Cruz Azul side just scoring goals right on them. So I feel like in this case, I really do not want them to lose because I figure it's a lose. We're just continuing that losing streak because from the Clausura where we lost to them, it was 1-0 due to Ana Aguilar missing his penalty. And then in the Copa por Mexico where we lost 1-4-2. So I feel like if it's a loss, I feel like it's not going to be looking so good for America. Yeah, if we go against Pumas and then we do beat them, who are also another good team, or having a draw, I feel like it's not going to be a really good look for America in this case. So I feel like even with the draw, I feel that's not going to really satisfy us because it's like we want to get our revenge, especially like what they did to us. So I feel like America needs to really come away with the win in this one, whether it's a sloppy win, a complete thrashing, or it's just a really close game. We just need to get those 3 points against our rivals.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. Dylan, do you have the numbers?
Yeah, right here. So out of our 3,000 plus followers, we only got 51 voters, and
I think maybe because we did it on a Sunday. I don't know. People were not on Twitter.
Yeah, we did it. We did it real late at night, and it was hoping for the next thing. So probably something we have to schedule the next day around midday. But 55% people said we'll get 9 points out of all three Clásicos. 35% said 7, 8% said 6, and 2% said other.
So that would be what, 5? The other,
Four,
only
three,
other option
two,
I would
5
think.
or 3. 5 or 3.
5 or 3.
Or 4.
Yeah. I guess there's plenty of numbers to go off of that. But interesting though that obviously maybe I think a lot of us did get carried away in the voting side of things because we just came off a Clasico victory. But I mean, reasonably, I think 7 points would be great. 9 would be exceptional. So I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it started with Chivas, but it has to continue with Cruz Azul. Now, Oscar, talk to me a little bit about this Cruz Azul side. I mean, is there any doubts coming into this game? Any injuries? Anything that we should be kind of on the lookout for you guys?
Well, I mean, we do have the top scorer of the league, Cabecita Rodriguez, with 10 goals. And then we have a youngster named Santi Jimenez at 19 years old who has 4 goals and 2 assists too. So, and then we have Luis Romo, who's become a sensation in Mexican media, talking about he's going to be this new revelation midfielder for El Tri, but that's another discussion. But yeah, I think, like I said, on paper and what you see as a fan on the TV and everything else, like this looks like a very good team. You mentioned injuries. I don't think we have any first team injuries right now. Only have Pablo Aguilar, but his thing was from a while back. He's recovering from a ACL tear. But first team injuries have not been a problem because the depth of our bench right now is just I haven't seen the depth in this of a bench like this in such a long time. I could probably compare it to maybe like to the Monterrey's and Tigres squad depth. Maybe they're just not as recognizable because they don't play for they don't get called up regularly for their South American squad teams, but their national team. Sorry, but having players like this past weekend, we had Alvarado on the bench, Milton Caralho before he was our top scorer. Now Santi's doing his thing, and he's able to cement that starting position. Yoshi Otun, who's an international Peru captain, he's on the bench. Rafa Vaca, who's been a staple point as well, on the bench. Just a lot of, just like I said, the squad depth is key to any great team, in my opinion. But yeah, this team is just flying high right now, and it's like I said, that consistency. Like I said before the pandemic ended, we were in first place, and now coming back into this situation again, we're in first place again. So consistency. One word to describe this team right now is consistency. Let's see if they can continue that against you guys on Sunday.
Damn, remember
what
we
is
talked about squad consistency.
So one word we actually want to be able to say on this podcast in a good way. because this is the last thing we get from America is consistency. But it sounds like both teams are really just water and oil at this point. I mean, you guys are literally on cloud nine. No injuries. Teams just clicking. Youngsters are coming up and doing their thing. You have very good
I
squad
don't mean to
depth.
cut you off, but there's I guess to give you guys a little bit of something to give you a little bit of hope or some to feel a bit more relieved to not think you're coming up against like world champions or something. They have been saying that we have been struggling with I guess the lower seed teams or the smaller clubs, but I don't think that works for your case.
No,
because if you saw, if you saw the scoreline, Masalan, it was 3-2, but I don't think the scoreline reflected the game. But I feel like sometimes on the defensive laps, we do struggle a bit at times with you guys, despite having a pretty decent defensive record. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're fine. I mean, kind of which is what I was alluding to is that it's like everything that America is suffering. It seems to be the opposite over at Cruz Azul. Like, we're struggling to put a team together because everyone just seems to be falling over on ants and just breaking their ACLs for some reason. And it's terrible right now. I mean, but again, it's something that's been plaguing America for so long already that at this point you'd be surprised if there wasn't any injuries. You'd be like, what's going on? What's wrong?
No, yeah, I've noticed that from just hindsight. There's always something going on with you guys.
Always.
But yeah, injuries are part of the game. So I think that goes back to what I was saying about squad depth. It's important to any great team in general. I don't feel like Club America has that. I don't follow them completely like that, but in terms of like, I just see the same players kind of get rotated in, and then players that come in and they've been youngsters from academy, not really adding on to the team. I don't even know. Did you guys even sign anyone this window?
We did, but they're injured.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of mentioning whenever you're talking about the squad depth Cruz Azul has. I was like, I was thinking like we used to talk about squad depth too. Like we used to say Benedetti coming off the bench, but now Benedetti's just like after the start, and we don't have nobody else to come off the bench for him.
Oh, don't refer to back then. I remember how like America's always trying to sell players to Europe. I'm like, yeah, it's great. But then I was like, yeah, Agustin Marchesín, Guido Rodriguez, Edson Alves, Mateus Uribe. Maybe even Cecilio Dominguez when he was like really good when he first got introduced to this team. Maybe I'm speaking high on, but it's one of those things where it's like America would have squad. Like imagine we kept those kind of players onto the bench. It's like, wow, you literally have like a super sub right there to just sub into the game. Or we have our youngsters, but here's the problem. They never seem to break through like Ivan Moreno. We just sold him to Mazatlan. We had Oswaldo Leon. We just sent him to Zacatepec. We never hear from him ever again. Had Ortega. I think he's playing for Toluca Primer for their Fuerza Básicas. I'm like, what? We just sent a player who, if I'm not mistaken, from last season started, I think it was 2 games against Tigres and Xolos where he was looking really promising. And then this is like, yeah, let's send Toluca. Has yet to play a single game for the first team. And they're like, yeah, and Toluca we're playing in the Fuerza Básicas. And I'm like, for like the U20, I'm like, why? Then it's that problem where it's like with squad with America, we just sell or loan players that we could really need for the team. And then when we look at the bench, we're just like, it's decent, but it's like, it's not going to really, they're not the kinds where it's like they're going to make such a complete impact when they get subbed in.
Yeah, we're you guys definitely have the upper hand when it comes to squad depth in regards to that. I think our bench is a little bit lackluster compared to your guys', but it's not to say that these players can't go out and get the results, which I do think they're very confident in that they can do so. Like I mentioned earlier when Ochoa got interviewed and they mentioned the upcoming Clasico Joven that was coming up on Sunday. He said that the team is very well aware of the moment that Cruz Azul is living. They're obviously top of the table. The goals that they're scoring, the players that they have, and the rhythm that they got going. And they know that it's gonna be a tough opposition, but that they're excited, that they're motivated to play against them, and that they're looking forward to this Clasico home. And they know that it's a lot is riding on this, and that they're going out there to play for all 3 points. So it's gonna be interesting. It sounds like the players are motivated. They're up for this one, and I think when you have that tied along with a victory that just happened not so long ago against your most bitter rivals, I think it spells something promising for America going into this game. But Oscar, tell me a little bit more about how Cruz will come into this game. Do you have a predicted lineup, maybe a predicted formation, style, tactics that will be implemented against us, or how do you think Cruz is going to try to manage this game?
You know what? Before the last time I was on here, Pedro Carcina was our head coach, and he was pretty predictable of his lineup. But lately, with Siboldi, I've noticed that he likes to do a lot of rotations and like to give a lot of chance. Like if someone has a good game, he was like, "All right, here you go. Here's another one." So I think that our back line will probably stay the same. We play with a four back with Alerte, Igor Leshnovsky, Cata Dominguez, and Juan Escobar. And then this is where the midfield is where he changes a lot. Some days it's Rivero, Pineda, Romo, and Alvarado. And then I think the up top it might stay the same, but who knows? He might just leave Cabecita alone up there to try to fill in the numbers in the midfield and try to get control of the midfield, because that's probably the key. Will probably be a key point in the game. But formation would probably be a 4-2-3-1 maybe, or 4-1-3-2 if Santi plays. But yeah, the starting 11 is a bit iffy in the midfield, but I know that you'll probably have to watch out for Cabecita up top. I know your defense right. The defense is gonna have they're definitely gonna get their money's worth that day, or at least I hope so. And then the midfield is where it kind of goes iffy a little bit. The only midfielder that I can guarantee that will probably start is Luis Romo. So in terms of everywhere else, we'll see what Siboldi will try to bring out to the team.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. I mean, I do think it's going to be quite the battle of the midfield, if America even wants to play in the midfield, because I think sometimes they get a little bit antsy and just completely skyrocket and play long ball United. And I mean, we'll see what Piojo ends up wanting to do in regards to that aspect. But I think it's a strong formation nonetheless, and I think I expect anything less of it, really. Like you mentioned, I think you're the main man to look out for. Definitely is going to be Cabecita, but I think really, whoever's supplying Cabecita is just going to be as vital to shut down, because whilst he is a great striker, I think you need to get the ball to him, and if we can cut off those passes and any channels for him to run into, I think neutralizing that game for you guys, I think will be important for America, and hopefully Piojo can see it, and I'm very doubtful that he does, but we'll see. Gentlemen, talk to me more about what we think we're gonna come out with. AJ, would you like to give our predicted starting 11? I know Christian usually does this. Again, he's out there trying to look for Bad Bunny, but let me know what do you think America is gonna come out with?
To be honest, if I feel like we're going with this formation change due to the injuries that we were having, though I feel like in this game I would honestly like to see the same lineup that we had before, except the only difference is we have Emmanuel Aguilera injured, so I maybe do kind of feel like we might just swap in Ramon Juarez, my boy Paolo Maldini, right there into that spot, into the defense. So I honestly feel like that America might just rock with the same lineup that we had against Chivas. If not, then I feel like at maybe at the halftime or at some point during there, I may feel like they might switch to a 5 at the back. So I honestly feel like in this case, if we're going with that 4-1-3-2, it would be Guillermo Ochoa, Jorge Sanchez, Sebastian Cáceres, Ramon Juarez, Luis Fuentes. Then we have Richard Sanchez, Nicolas Benedetti, Sebas Cordova, Leo Suarez. Then we have Gio Dos Santos and Henry Martin up front. Actually, I know Federico Viñas is going to be ready, but maybe in this case, I guess considering that Gio did get us that goal, I feel like maybe we might just let him start again and see. And then if things don't happen to pan out well, we would sub Gio Dos Santos out maybe during the first half, maybe at the later on, the 40th minute mark, which I don't think it happened, or in the second half, at the very beginning, we'd sub him out for Federico Viñas.
Interesting. Dylan, what are the chances of Henry not starting this game? Because he was a little bit lacklustrous in the Clásico Nacional. I'm not saying he had a bad game, but I just think, he wasn't really the Henry that we were expecting. Is there a chance for him to sit the bench out and put Viñas in with Gio?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably see that at this rate. It kind of all depends on if Venus will be ready. Um, but I think if that's the case, if Venus is ready, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But obviously, if Venus is not ready, you're starting Henry.
Yeah, and you know what? I agree with AJ in regards to the formation. I think we're definitely going to go out with the same starting 11 that we did against Chivas. I think it worked well. But here's the problem, and I think Christian alluded to this when we were talking off camera on Saturday after the game, and it was that if you do play this formation against Cruz Azul, then you're practically giving up the midfield because you're not really having kind of a holding midfielder there. You're having more two midfielders that have a liberty to go forward and make something out of the attack. Whilst we know Richard can do the center defensive mid role, I don't think he really prefers to be the player to do that role. So I'm very doubtful. I'm very skeptical as to what kind of play America is going to try to do because if you do end up leaving those gaps in the middle, then you're really giving the game to Cruz Azul and saying, look, you can have the ball, you can come at us, but we're going to try to get you on the counter and we're going to try to get you on whatever advantage we can, whether it's a set piece or whatever the case may be. But I do feel like that might just be the case for this game against Cruz Azul, which I personally don't like. I think there's other ways to go about this game, but I mean, I really don't see the players that we have available to make anything else happen or work because, I think we're really going to be putting a lot of kind of pressure on our wings and having Benedetti and Leo Suarez do a lot of the lifting, and we'll have to wait and happen. But I do see one weakness besides the whole midfield thing, I do see one very big weakness that I think Cruz Azul is definitely going to try to exploit, and that is Luis Fuentes. I mean, the man looks like he's definitely not in rhythm and just getting outbeat every time he has to go out for a foot race. So, Oscar, this must be music to your ears to know that we definitely don't even have a left back that can neutralize you guys. So, do you think Cruz Azul is definitely going to try to attack that side?
Well, it depends. It depends on Siboldi. I mean, I'm not in the training center and when they watch film, but if they do watch it, that will definitely we'll see a change in formation. He'll probably try to put Elias Hernandez on the right and try to see if he can take him on. But then again, Elias is an old man too, so who knows? That'd be an interesting battle there.
That'd be a great foot race, but I promise you, Elias is still gonna win it. Like
you think
he could be on a cane and he's still winning it.
No, if you want to talk about it, if you anytime you've seen a Cruz Azul game with Elias, like the quality is there. I've always said this, and I feel like every coach or anyone who has ever played, if you ever have that technical quality or that skill, that never goes away. Just the physical traits of like the speed and jumping, all that does go away, and you can see it from each player. So Elias still has it, but when he sprints, man. My God, he is pretty slow too. He has maybe 5 good sprints in him in a game, which is why he's not a starter anymore. So, if he does start, he'll probably come out second half. But yeah, we'll see definitely because the thing is too, I don't really think we have anyone that's an outright winger like that because Alvarado likes to drift in and kind of facilitate in that center attack of mid role. And then, like I said, if Elias does play, like I said, it'd be a good old man matchup. But yeah, I just feel like in general, your whole back line, you guys have let in a lot of goals too. You guys are up there with the most goals conceded this season as well. So, we'll see how that'll play out. But it's good to know that Luis Fuentes. I'm surprised Bielko hasn't brought in. And my question for you guys, would you rather bring in maybe an academy product from the under-20s to try to fill in that role during this time, or maybe try to put Jorge Sanchez back in there and bring an academy product to play someone in the midfield or something like that?
Well, I think that's the interesting thing. I think whenever this whole what's his name, Gornacha?
Mm-hmm.
Am I even saying that right? I don't even know. But
Andrew Goransish? Yeah.
Gorinsky, whatever his name is. Look, at the end of the day, we all thought that he was going to be the promising left back, and we were just going to have George on the right. But I mean, he's still yet to even get minutes. He hasn't even been called up to the squad. He hasn't even been on the bench. So, I mean, a lot of question marks in regards to that. But, I mean, in Fuentes we trust because we have to, not because we want to. But I mean, we'll see what happens. Really, really big liability there, which I'm pretty sure Cruz Azul is going to try to exploit. But, gentlemen, quickly talk to me. And this question is for everyone. Give me your key player of the match. What player needs to have a big game in order for their team to come out with all 3 points? And I'll throw it to you first, Oscar.
I think it'd probably be. I mean, the easy answer is Cabecita Rodriguez, but I'm trying to give a. I want to give you a different answer. I think it's gonna have to be in the midfield. So if it's Baca, Yoshi, or Rivero, whichever starts in that holding midfield role, or if we have two playing in that position, one of the two is going to be key. Just because if they can help cut off that Cruz America attack and then distribute the ball well to our more offensive players to be able to create and maybe get Cabecita on a fast break, that will be really key. Yeah, I think that's one of those midfielders, whoever's playing in that role. Like you said, the midfield is going to be key. I feel like in this game, especially with both teams who like to score goals.
Interesting. I thought you were going to say Cesar Villaluz, but of course, what do I know?
Oh man, dirty good.
AJ, who has to come up big for America?
If he is going to start, which I'm sure he will, it's going to be Henry Martin. He did not really score in the Clasico. He was really quiet during out the entire time. So I feel like in this game, this is the time for Henry Martin to step up and to add some goals into his goal tally. He's got 5 goals this season, but I feel like he could honestly be that America player for, I think, since Chucho Benitez to break double digits for us in the regular season. So I think in this case, Henry really needs to come up. Yeah, I know it's not like Pumas where every time we play against Pumas, Henry Martin always scores against Pumas. It's like that's like his favorite opponent to play against when it comes to the Clasico. But I feel like in this case, I feel like it's gonna have to be Henry Martin in this case. He can get himself a goal at that. If he can get himself a goal into this match, then I think he can start the rhythm going where it feels like the plan is just gonna be like, let's start feeding Henry the ball because he has that physicality to be able to almost some defenders that he faces against in his path when he's trying for him to score goals. So I think in this case, it's gonna have to be Henry Martin in this case. He needs to come up big against Cruz Azul.
Alrighty, Dylan.
For repeating lineups, like Christian said, and we talked about here, pretty much kind of giving up the midfield. But I think Richard Sanchez is really going to have a big game. Like you said, he doesn't really like playing the center defensive mid role. But, in this case, he's going to have to. He's going to have to like it and love it and do it for a whole 90 minutes.
Yeah, he's going to be very instrumental to what America's capable of doing. He's going to have to be the one starting that attack, and hopefully he can get things going. For me, I think it has to be Cáceres. I think Sebas has to come out, and he has to come out big. He had a good game against Chivas, but I think he's really going to get tested against Cruz Azul. We mentioned, Cabecitas is in hot form, so a lot of responsibility is going to fall on him. And if there is no Aguilera, he is the next in line to lead that back line in a sense. So, you're asking a lot from a youngster, but hey, he knew what he signed up for when he came to America, and this is the moments where a player like that needs to step up and show his caliber. I know he's had some questionable games, he's had some questionable mistakes, but it's got to be now or never, especially against a very, very tough opposition like Cruz Azul is. So if you're able to do it, and I think if he's on his night, then yeah, I think you could see another clean sheet from America. But we'll see, right? But he needs to have a really big game in my eyes. I think it all is going to fall down on the defense because, like Oscar mentioned, we've been leaking goals left, right, and center. It's not even duct tape has been able to help us in this situation. So let's see if the defense is up for the challenge on Sunday night. But again, you guys can catch that game Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Nope, is that right or is that wrong? I believe that's very wrong.
It's 9:45 p.m. EST. I know that.
Yeah.
So that is 6:45. So it's 6:45 Pacific Standard Time. Then it's 8:45 Eastern, and then 9:45. No, sorry, Central, and then 9:45 Eastern Time. Sorry about that. But quickly, gentlemen, before we wrap this all up, I do want to get you guys' prediction. Oscar, throwing it to you first. Give me a prediction for the Clasico Joven on Sunday.
My heart says we're going to win, but if I'm a betting man, I think we're going to fall. I think we've just been too consistent. You know, we're gonna have to go. We're gonna have to drop at some point. I feel like Club America is gonna do it. So I think we're gonna take an L 2-1.
Oh my goodness! I've never in my life have
Wow.
I never had someone come on the show where their team is completely dominating, going up against us, and say, "You know what? I don't think we're gonna take it." But hey, credit to you, my
No,
man.
it's not that I don't believe in them. It's just look how we've been playing. First of all, I'm a Cruz Azul fan, right? Put some context into it. How many times have we failed, or just we game where we should win, we lose, and leads we don't keep, we lose it. So I just feel like this is, you know, we just have consecutive wins against you guys, which it's rare. It's rare. You know what I mean? So I just feel like we're gonna slip, you know, and it's normal. It's gonna build character to the team, which is what I'm excited to see. Because how you lose, you definitely learn more than when you lose games. So I just feel like we're just gonna slip. Like I said, if I was a betting man, I feel like we're gonna lose 2-1. But like I said, my heart says it should be a good 2-0 win. But I'm gonna say we're gonna take the L 2-1.
Interesting. Okay, well, I mean, rational man. Credit to you, man. Credit to you. All right, AJ, prediction.
You know, as an Jamaica fan, I always want that clean sheet of a 3-0 victory. You know, whenever someone rage quits in FIFA and you get the 3-0 win.
No, come on, man. He's like, we may be losing, but we're not losing like that.
Yeah, come on, man. Give me some credit. This is why sorry to cut you off, but when the guys from the Lion Den, we were gonna play with, I couldn't be on their show, but I watched their show and they were just like literally trashing my Cruz Azul team after coming into their game like 18 games undefeated, scoring I don't know how many goals, and all of them were like, yeah, we're gonna thrash them like 3-0, 4-1 when they could barely score any goals. But okay, but no, go ahead, keep going.
But no, as an American fan, I want to say 3-0, but considering like how Cruz Azul are doing really well this season, along with that makeup, but they have some defensive struggles. So I honestly, you know what? I'm gonna go with the draw. I feel this is gonna be a 2-2 draw. In all honesty, like how I really see this game, I'm gonna be realistic. I feel like we're coming out here with a draw, 2-2. As much as I don't want to draw, it's like it's better than a loss. It's 1 point. It's better than 0.
All right. Well then, Dylan, what's your prediction?
I go 1-1 draw.
A 1-1 draw. I mean, that's a draw seems very rational at this point. Now before I give my prediction, Oscar, let's say in the craziest of world, America does end up winning 3-0. What happens? Do we replay this clip again and we just, you know?
Oh my god. I mean,
trust me, I don't
if
think
it does
happen,
it's because we got like 2 red cards or a red card. But first of all, look at your track record. You guys, it's hard getting clean sheets. How many Memo Ochoa has received so many goals?
Okay, now
like I said, from a rational and a logistical standpoint, I don't see that happening. But it can't. Like I said, anything can happen too. But I hope it doesn't. Knocking on wood right now. But yeah, I don't see that happening. Come on, guys.
No, trust me, man. We're kidding. We're kidding here. We don't even expect that to happen. So, hey, but you know what? Football's crazy like that. Football is crazy like that. I'm gonna go with a very, very, very tight game, and I think that America just nicks it by just a little bit. I think it's another 1-0 victory. Another game in where we're gonna suffer a lot. Like that's why I said the defense has to be on par because they're gonna have to throw their bodies on the line. There's gonna be shots coming at them left, right, and center. Set pieces scare me to death. Like I feel like we don't even know what to mark at some point. So,
I got a question for you guys, actually. You don't mind?
Yeah. No, yeah.
You guys,
so,
go. You guys are so worried about your. I know I mentioned it too. You guys are so worried about your defense, but you guys have the best goal scoring record in the league.
Which we don't know how. We don't know how, to be honest.
Yeah,
we're just that shocked. Like last season, didn't they tell us that we had the best defense, Dylan? And we were just like,
yeah, we always trash the defense last.
It's like
as long as you outscore your opponent, it's all good. That's literally what Man City did last season. look at their goal factor, and goals against. That's why some games they won like 5-0, and then some games they'll lose. I don't know how much too. They get a lot of goals conceded every time too. So as long as you outscore your opponent, I feel like that's all that matters at the end of the day.
No, it is.
So,
it is. So I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But it does strike me that we have the best or one of the best offense in the league when
I think
we're
you guys
sitting
have
here
the best
sometimes
one.
criticizing. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, hopefully that plays a big factor on Sunday. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm going with that 1-0 victory. I think it's going to be difficult, but I think Jamaica just edges it at the end. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I wouldn't be too opposed to a draw either. But again, it's going to be hard to keep a clean sheet against you guys, especially against you guys. I think you're definitely going to give us our money's worth. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But, gentlemen, anything else to add on? No? We're pretty content here. Yeah. All righty then. Well, before we sign off, Oscar, we want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's the second time you come on here. And really, really happy to have you on. Really happy with everything that you're doing out there. I know that we may be rivals on the pitch, but off of it, we definitely salute to everything that you're doing, man. Just congratulations and keep going, man. We're loving it.
No, thank you guys for coming. Yeah, thanks for highlighting that. Just I hate the fact that at least in the Liga MX community, we're able to do that. You know, we could be rivals on the field, but off it we can like converse and like, you know, we can be cool off. You know what I mean? Which unfortunately, I don't think in Mexico that doesn't happen. At least from my experience when I head down there, like, there's some issues, but you know, it's a different world down there. But I'm glad our community, the Mexican American community here, we're able to do that. But thanks guys for having me, and yeah, you guys are always doing your thing. Congrats on all the stuff you guys have been doing. All the not just with the men's, but with the feminine too.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It means a lot. We like to know that other people can like our stuff too, which I think that's the beautiful thing, like you mentioned about this community. It's that you can take a little bit the rivalry aside of things and still appreciate what everyone else is doing. So thank you so much, man. Really, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that's been watching and listening. Make sure you guys go out and check out that YouTube video that we just did with Rigo talking about that jersey swapping. Oscar, I don't know if we're gonna have any jersey swappings going on after our game, but if we do, we're definitely gonna have you back on so we can talk about that. But thank you again for coming on. Thank you to everyone watching this. Thank you to Christian for missing the show, trying to go find Bad Bunny. Thank you to AJ and Dylan so much.
That's hilarious, by the way. I can't believe you did
that. It's the story we're going with. All right, then, man. All of you guys have a wonderful night. Stay safe out there. Please wear your mask. We'll be in touch on Sunday. We live tweeting everything. Make sure you guys tune in on Thursday. We're going to be talking all things Lady Águilas. And that pretty much wraps up everything that we have to do in regards to Las Águilas del América. You guys have yourself a wonderful night. Take care. And as always, Adiós América. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another production of the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 source for all things Club America in English. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast and get all the latest news and coverage. And subscribe to our podcast wherever it is you may listen.